Hello and welcome everyone to another video I put effort into. This time we'll be ranking all the choices in The Walking Dead Season 2 from worst to best. Just like last time, criteria for rankings includes how much this actually affects the story, and how much it makes the player feel. Bonus points are awarded to characters that matter more, such as Luke and Kenny. And we also will not be looking at how these choices affect Season 3 or Season 4, as I'm trying to rank these based upon release date. So Season 1 will be taken into account, but Season 3 and 4 will not, since at this point, they did not exist yet. There are 25 choices in this game, and it's all based on my opinion. If you disagree or agree, then you may let me know in the comments below. Now let's move into it. Number 25, ask to go with Mike. The worst choice in the game comes in the final episode, and that's asking to go with Mike. Even if you ask to go, Arbel would shoot you no matter what, and nothing changes besides a few lines of dialogue. You could shoot Mike, however, which I always find entertaining. So it's best to say that the first half of this list is whatever. You could swap around the spots of 25 to 15, and I wouldn't say you're wrong. They all kind of suck. Number 24, Rob Arvo. This is ahead of 25 since at least you could get different dialogues depending on what you choose, but it's still the same overall either way. Arvo will still try to rob you later on, even if you give him back his medicine, and even when Jane is with you, he doesn't care. They still try to rob you, which is absolute bullshit. Number 23, tell Bonnie about Luke. You're gonna notice that a lot of these choices never have any consequences or honestly deserve to be a spot on this list. They don't even deserve to be a choice in the game, but yet here we are. Bonnie will let you go no matter what option you pick, so do whatever here. This genuinely should probably have been the last, but Arvo is involved in the other two, and let's be honest, no one likes Arvo at all. Number 22, shoot Rebecca. This is more of a story moment and shouldn't even be a choice. Even if you don't shoot Rebecca, Kenny domes her in the head right after, making it pointless to exist. Another thing is most people, including me, didn't like most members of the new group, except for like several at most, so shooting her didn't personally affect me that much on an emotional level. The baby not having food is important, but they somehow managed to keep him alive for the next few days without her, so it doesn't really matter. Number 21, Nick's apology. Accepting or rejecting Nick's apology changes a single line right after the scene with Pete, but that's about it. This spot should have been conversing with Luke, like tell Luke about your past or not. That would have been a lot better and would have started a sort of connection with you and Luke, since Luke is meant to be the one you're Kenny of this game until Kenny shows up. But you get the point. Really, this is just useless. Number 20, help Sarah with her chores. The first of several choices involving Sarah on this list, so I think there's a sort of friendship meter that you were supposed to have with her, or maybe it still is in the game, similar to Kenny in Season 1. But if it is, it sucks, because all you have to do is be nice to Sarah when you first meet her, tell her you're a friend, and that's it. You could be mean to her for the rest of the game, but you could still say, oh, we're friends. And helping her or not helping her won't save Reggie either. No matter what you pick, he's gonna get Sparted off the roof. Number 19, take blame for the photo. I put this ahead of the chores because I like to insult and blame Carlos for it, but besides that, it does nothing. It's just like the last one. It doesn't affect your relationship with Sarah no matter what, you still friends, and it's just pointless, honestly. Number 18, crawl through the boot. Now this is one that actually is ahead of the rest because it actually does something. If you have Bonnie do it instead of you, when she gets attacked by the walker, she'll get a permanent mark on her left eye, like a black eye sort of. And so that's something at least besides dialogue, and there's not much else. It's hard to believe just how badly a group full of adults relies on an 11-year-old girl to do 90% of the work. Besides 2 to 3 other members in this group, no one does anything. It's unreal. Number 17, give the man water. So one of the bastards who attacked Krista is here, and you can give him water while he's dying. He won't say anything about Krista though, so there's no point, honestly. I just choose not to give him it because I'm able to give some to Pete when I go with Pete, since I always pick Pete over Nick, and when it's just us, since I feel like Pete deserves it way more than this guy. Or I'm pretty sure you can give it to Rebecca later on in episode 2, but I've never tried, so I have no idea as well. Number 16, protect the baby. This might be the only exception among the bad choices, since it's a baby. People playing know you're not going to die at the start of the episode, so when you see the baby in the middle of the war zone, you're going to run and save him. I think when Telltale had testers play this game, almost all chose to protect the baby. I heard about that on a YouTube video. I'm not sure how authentic or true it is. That's just what I heard. Really, no matter what you do, Luke will get shot in his leg, so not much of a difference. Number 15, help Krista or sneak away. It's been over a decade and we still have no idea what happened to Krista, which is mainly why it's up here and how she's the last person to take care of Clemens after Season 1, so there's that emotional impact. Choosing to help her has her run off, followed by a single gunshot and noises what sound like her struggling, while sneaking away results in her being stabbed in the leg and telling Clementine to run. It really doesn't look good either way, but maybe there's a chance she did survive. Honestly, I'm convinced that she did die here, but we have no idea since we never saw it. I say this is the best of the pointless choices, in my opinion. Number 14, kill the dog. Now, we finally get the choices that have an impact, at least to me, emotionally, since it's a dog. You could rotate this one number 13, and I wouldn't argue since it's a dog, but 13 hurt me more personally, so that's why it's here. I think we can all agree that the dog was a victim. He was just acting on pure instinct and didn't deserve what happened to him. I always chose to kill him, as it's best to just end his suffering then and there. I'm sure you were one of the bestest boys in the world. I'm sorry, Sam. Number 13, admit to being the one who took the walkie-talkie. So this choice is biased since no matter what you do, the same results happen. But it's the scene itself and the emotional impact it has that puts it all the way up here. And yes, it's biased. Watching Kenny take the blame for Clementine, no matter what you pick, and then nearly being beaten to death for it, never gets easier to watch. It goes to show that no matter how much in a rough state Kenny is in, it doesn't matter if he knows the possible consequences, Kenny will always protect the ones he truly cares about. And that's enough to land it here. Now we finally get to choices that matter in my opinion. You could change any spot from 25 to 15 and I wouldn't disagree with any of you as they're practically all the same to me. 14 and 13 however deserve a higher spot in my opinion since I believe they're actually do something emotionally. For this choice, I feel bad for Luke though since most people are gonna pick Kenny over Luke since you knew Kenny in Season 1 and most people playing this game played Season 1 so they're gonna pick Kenny every single time, or most of the time at least. Kenny will even mention the fact that you sat with him later on in episode 5, which is a neat little detail. A little trivia fact, apparently the battle between Jane and Kenny at the end of the game was supposed to be Luke and Kenny, but they scrapped it. We don't fully know, or maybe we do fully know, I don't fully know myself, but that's a pretty interesting thing to see. I mean, why they changed that. Number 11/number 10, tell Walter the truth and convince him to save Nick. I decided to combine these two into a tie because of the same idea of choice, honestly. Nick domed his lover Matthew, and Walter figures this out by looking inside Clementine's bag and seeing the knife they had. This always weirded me out a little bit, since I don't get why Walter would investigate your bag. It's just because Walter seems like such a trustworthy guy, especially with how he gives Bonnie food supplies immediately after meeting her and believing her story, yet he loots the bag of Clementine, who Kenny seems to trust, and he's known Kenny for a bit too. So it's just weird to me that he would loot her bag, but whatever, honestly. I might be looking too deep into it. Anyways, if you lie to Walter, then Nick is guaranteed dead. If you're honest with Walter and then tell him Nick is a good man, he'll save him. I do find it funny how you could slap Walter if he doesn't save Nick, even if you told him Nick isn't a good man. It doesn't do much though in keeping him alive, since the guy has like 3 lines in episode 3 and dies at the start of episode 4. So in a way, it's kind of pointless since Nick never gets any moments after this, so what's the point of keeping him alive? Number 9, look for Kenny or surrender. I love this choice because I can't lie. Telling Kenny to shoot and getting Alvin killed makes me laugh. And I do feel terrible about it, don't worry, I'm not an insane man, but it's just I didn't expect Carver to just drop the dude and proceed to dome him in the back of the head after Kenny misses his shot. It's just, it gets me every single time, and yeah, I'm a terrible person, I'm so sorry. Despite this, I always prefer to keep Alvin alive. You can keep him alive in either options, as long as you pick the right choices, because he has that badass moment in episode 3. He gets shot in the shoulder, and despite his beatings by Carver as well, he tanks it and kills the shooter before he dies. Alvin even has the respect of Kenny, as later on in an episode 5 or 4, I can't remember the one, I'm sorry. Kenny calls him one tough man, and that's a big compliment, especially from someone like Kenny. Number 8, Pete or Nick. Of course, one of the only 3 people I like gets bit and dies no matter what. Going with Nick has Pete get eaten by walkers, while going with Pete will save him until early episode 2. I like Pete, which is why it's this high up on the list, even if there's hardly any choices with this type of situation anyways. It's like a watered down Carly and Doug moment, but it ends the next episode. It's just, Season 2 does this thing where a lot of characters you could save die in the next episode, or at the very least, if they live longer, they have barely any involvement in the story, and then they get killed like off screen or very quickly. Learning more about Pete, however, is always a treat, as he genuinely seemed like a great guy. Even if him and Nick had their issues, they're still family at the end of the day. Going with Nick has you learning more about him as well, but it's mainly Pete driving us to this spot. Number 7, watch Carver's death. This is one of those moments that is meant to develop Clementine. There's no objective right or wrong option here. I usually take the scene as this. Letting Clementine watch it is meant to make her more hardcore, making her more survival ready and more willing to do what it takes to survive. Not watching it is Clementine keeping her humanity, her compassion for others and people, and being more willing to show a good side to her. Both have their pros and cons, and you're not wrong by picking either side in my opinion. I really like this moment as it develops so much in such a short amount of time. People will comment on your decision later, such as Luke and Kenny. Overall, it's a great choice and a great spot. Number 6, holding AJ. This moment right here is one that I agree. It doesn't matter in the end, but to me, it's too important of a scene to not put this high up. Holding AJ represents so much. Off the bat, Clementine is already a natural at keeping him calm when you hold him, showing that there's already some sort of natural bond there for the future. AJ himself, however, also represents the most important thing people need in the apocalypse, at least in my opinion, and that's hope. AJ represents the hope that one day, humanity will survive all this and life will return to how it was before. AJ being able to be born in this era of an apocalypse is proof enough that it's possible. It may take years, decades, and over a century even, but one day, the walkers will all be gone, and humans must always hold on to the hope that that day will come one day. And that's why I believe it deserves the number 6 spot. Number 5, help Luke. What other way to start a top 5 than with a death that really stings? Luke is someone that almost all fans enjoyed. He was the big brother character in the game The Clementine. He was skilled, caring, and smart, but he wasn't always perfect, he made mistakes, which cost the team at times. And that's what made him so great. He wasn't perfect. When the ice began to crack, I truly hoped that there would be some way to save him. Sadly, Bonnie exists, so Luke is fated to die no matter what. If you don't listen and try to help him, you'll be dragged into water, and of course Bonnie can't protect you from the walkers, which causes him to drown, since Luke sacrifices himself to push Clementine out of the way, and then the walker drags him down to the bottom. In the other choice, Bonnie will try to save Luke herself, which causes the ice to break, but you could try to break the ice below you to save him, while Jane keeps telling you to stop, it's too late. But even if you do manage to break the ice, Luke will already have drowned by then. Of course though, Bonnie somehow survives and escapes and is a bitch to you for the rest of the episode, even if it's her own damn fault for why Luke died. It's really the emotional damage of losing Luke that shoots it up here. Number 4, chop off Sarita's arm. I think when a lot of us first made it here and saw Sarita being bit, we all almost instinctively cut off her arm to attempt to save her. I will also be the first to admit that we did not think about how someone would react to getting their arm cut off suddenly in the middle of a herd of zombies. So we all saw what happened when we cut that arm off, and I don't think any of us realized how bad of an idea that was at the time. Personally, I always tend to kill the walker now, just to give Kenny some time or a chance to say goodbye. It's this high up since this is the moment Kenny begins to crack. More on that later. Before we get to the top 3, I would talk about honorable mentions, but unlike season 1, there are no honorable mentions. There's just no other choices that really deserve a spot on this list or an honorable mention. Threatening Rebecca goes nowhere, teaching Sarah to defend herself goes nowhere, and much more. Nothing changes at all, sadly. Alright, let's get on with the rest of this list. Number 3, Sarah's fate. Why is Sarah's death so high? She hardly contributes to the plot, and I wouldn't blame people for saying this is too high. To make my own piece though, this is a spot that I put real thought into after playing the game many times, and I come to believe her fate represents a lot more than meets the eye. To me, Sarah is what Clementine would have been had Lee not taught her how to survive in episode 3 of season 1. I do believe Clementine before episode 3 was a better survivor than Sarah, but that still doesn't mean much. She didn't know how to use a gun, and she kept her hair long. Lee didn't want to show her that as he believed that she was just a little girl, just as how Carlos treated Sarah. Carlos treated Sarah how Lee treated Clementine in the idea of survival at first. Both believed they didn't need to have these skills, and both believed that they would always be around for them. And in the end, both were wrong. Had it not been for Chuck in episode 3 convincing Lee that Clementine would have to grow up in order to survive, she wouldn't have made it this far. Carlos was proof of this. He never taught Sarah how the world worked. He even admitted this in episode 1, that he doesn't want her seeing how the outside world is. He never taught her what she needed to know in order to live in this world in case something ever happened to him. And because of this, Sarah died scared, devoured by walkers without her dad to save her as she screamed for his help. Chuck, despite only being around for half an episode worth of time, really did a lot more than most characters did in this franchise in his time. Thank you, Chuck. Number 2, shoot Kenny. What does a man do when he has nothing left to live for? A man who needs a purpose in order to function. This is how Kenny lives. He needs a goal in order to function. He lost his purpose in season 1 and he became depressed with his family. Then gained a new one with the boat, but then he lost that one. If Ben was still around, Kenny would have found himself a new purpose and completed it, making sure Ben didn't suffer anymore. Now Kenny has been put in this spot again, losing his second lover, having nothing left in life to protect. Except, he found a new purpose in a baby, an innocent little guy who's the next hope for the future. Everyone has been telling Clementine that Kenny was insane, that he was too dangerous and needed help. In a way, they're right, but it's much more than that. The fight between Jane, I'll go over her more in the number 1 spot, and Kenny is the culmination of everything Kenny has gone through this season, not thinking he's lost his purpose once again in Jane killing the baby. Eventually, their fight has Kenny about to stab Jane through the heart, and you're given the most important choice so far in the game. Kenny mentioned that while being beaten to near death, he finally felt peace again. He's been through more than anyone else in the series. You could finally give him peace here. Maybe it's right to shoot him. Maybe it's better to let him kill Jane for doing what she did to AJ. You can allow Kenny to kill Jane and then shoot him, which he accepts, believing he has nothing left in life and knowing he's a threat to Clementine's safety. You could let him kill Jane and then spare him, finding out baby AJ was alive and Jane was lying. Or you could shoot Kenny and save Jane, allowing us to say goodbye to Kenny. Hearing Kenny admit that he knew he had a problem, that he knew he was dangerous, that he believes it'd be better for Clementine if he was dead. Not being upset, not being in denial, but accepting of how he truly never trusted himself to protect the people he cared about most. Before he closes his eyes, and he's finally given peace once again. Number 1. Who are you with at the end? The game, unlike Season 1, features 5 endings technically, which I guess they did to make up for the lack of important choices overall. I'll be ranking each ending from worst to best for this spot. Number 5 and number 4 are tied with the Jane endings. Jane to me is someone who I began to grow fond of as time passed. I was starting to feel something good towards her. That was until the Kenny fight ended and finding out she put AJ inside an empty car in the middle of a snowstorm just to prove a point to Clementine. She pretended to get a baby killed in order to make Kenny mad because apparently she went galaxy brain mode and thinks someone is crazy for getting mad at a baby dying. A newborn, less than a week old baby. That really threw out what I had for Jane because I realized that she was just as bad, if not worse than Kenny. Kenny still cared for those close. Jane was doing this for her own selfish reason. It's funny how Telltale really wanted you to side against Kenny here and decided to use the fact that Jane put a newborn baby in a snowstorm and pretended she killed it in order to make someone mad. Maybe the point was to show the player that Clementine will be better off alone, but who knows. Now back to the actual endings. You two will go back to Howie's, Carver's place, and find a family asking to be let in. You can either choose to deny them entry or let them in. Either way, there are pros and cons. Denying them makes them a threat alongside with them having a little boy with them. Allowing them in has the pair seeing the man is armed with a gun, causing concern of who they just let in. I really can't come up with which is better, so I say they're tied, just like the Walter and Nick situation. Number 3, going with Kenny. I feel as if this is the ending Telltale wanted players to get the least. After having found AJ and going with Kenny, the two of you will eventually find Wellington, the safe haven you've been looking for since the first episode with Krista. Unfortunately, you find out that they no longer have space and turn you away with a supply bag. In a last desperate attempt, Kenny begs them to allow just Clementine and AJ to be let in while he stays out. They agree and you're given what, in my opinion, is the toughest choice in the entire game. Say goodbye to Kenny or refuse to leave him. When I was a kid, I always chose to go with Kenny. I could never leave him. Kenny will be on full display for the type of person he truly is by begging Clementine to go in. He believes that he can't take care of you. He's too dangerous. He's put you through too much that he can't forgive himself for it. You deserve better, and this place would be safer for you and AJ than anywhere he could take you. Despite his pleas, you can refuse to leave, which he doesn't understand. But he accepts it, as deep down, he doesn't want you to go. Wellington will give you double supplies, and then you and Kenny leave with AJ to who knows where. Number 2, alone with AJ. There are 3 different ways players can achieve this alone ending, which I believe is the ending Telltale wanted players to get the most. They made Kenny look as insane and evil as possible, while making Jane seem normal, until you would find out that she purposely tricked you and Kenny into believing she killed AJ, just to prove a point that Kenny was crazy. So she pretends to kill a baby to make him mad, which is still the biggest brain plan I've ever heard of. To achieve it, you either shoot Kenny and then leave Jane, to which she'll plead with you not to leave her, allow Kenny to kill Jane, then leave him, to which he'll understand and tell you it's best. To which he'll understand and tell you it's the best chance of survival you and the baby have. Or allow Kenny to stab Jane, then shoot Kenny, to which he allows you to do it, then find the baby alone and walk off. Clementine will be on a hillside, covering herself in AJ and walker guts, then walk into a horde. I feel as if Telltale wanted this ending to be the most popular, as this game really tries to push the idea that Clementine is better off alone. It's been shown throughout the game that she can survive on her own for the most part. I can get behind this ending being the best if there wasn't just one left. The best ending in The Walking Dead Season 2 is Wellington. I'm biased, especially towards Kenny, and I won't deny that. Throughout the entire game, even at the start, you hear about this place called Wellington, a safe haven that a lot of people are merely calling a myth. Krista and Clementine were looking for it before they were separated. Kenny mentions it in the lodge, and it becomes his goal to find it once the baby is born, believing it's their best chance. Throughout episode 5, there's the constant conflict of Kenny wanting to go to Wellington while the rest of the group want to try something else, believing the place doesn't even exist, or that it would take too long to find. As I mentioned before, going with Kenny at the end, you two find this place and are given the choice. The hardest choice I've had to make playing Telltale games. Staying at Wellington to me is the final piece of Kenny's character arc, not only for season 2, but for the whole series. His number one goal has been just protecting people, wanting to protect his family, which he failed, the boat, which he failed, Sarita, to which he failed, and he thought he had failed in protecting AJ. But now, he finally has a chance to complete his mission in life, complete his purpose, protecting the people he cares about the most. The place Clementine has been trying to find with Krista has been found. Kenny begs you to stay. It's better here than with him. He doesn't want you to go. He doesn't want you to leave him. But he knows this is best. When he convinces you, he gives you his hat, telling Clementine to give it to AJ to protect him from the sun, to tell him all about his mom and dad, and all the people who sacrificed themselves to ensure his survival. He grabs the bags, telling Clementine he's glad to have met you, that he won't look back as he knows if he does, he won't be able to go through with it. You say goodbye and walk into Wellington. Kenny walks away and stops, but he keeps going. The gates begin closing as both keep walking until they finally shut. Goodbye, Kenny, and thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Even if you only watch a tiny bit of the video, it still helps a ton and motivates us to keep making more. If you have any opinions that agree or disagree with my choices, then please let us know below in the comments, as I really do enjoy interacting with people, whether they agree or disagree. If you really want to help even more, leaving a like and even subscribing also helps. Of course, it's your choice and you don't have to. It's a free country where I come from after all, and if you don't want to subscribe, I don't blame you. It's alright. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.